Come on, let's give us one.
Get up there.
Good luck.
Go for it. Let's get a testimony.
Well, see, I have a couple testimonies. You know, I got when I got saved, and then I have what happened. Then I have one when I was kind of, got away a little bit and went through that, came back. You know, I've been listening to a lot of ministry lately, especially lately on the prodigal son. You know, and love that parable. You know, you see the heart of the Father in that parable, and one of the things that helped me when I came back to the Lord was I realized from that parable that, you know, once you're a son, once you're born again, you're always a son. It's just like if you have a child, you know, and he runs off and, you know, and he doesn't talk to you anymore, but he's still your son. And the father, and you, as a parent, you still love him no matter what, you know. And so that helped me kind of come back to the Lord, you know. But well, I'll tell you how I got saved. I had a guitar teacher. You got about 10-15 minutes? I'll tell you the long version. No, I'll make it fast. But I started taking guitar lessons when I was 18. Turned 18. I'm kind of a late bloomer, you know. And anyway, my guitar teacher happened to be a youth minister at this local Baptist church. And so after about 6 months, I was really into guitar. I mean, I would just practice all the time. I'd, you know, do a little of this, and then I could really focus, and I could play music like for hours, as long as I had a toque before. It really helped me focus, you know. So anyway, after about 6 or 8 months, he asked me. He goes, "Eric, what are you doing after the lessons tonight?" You know, it was like late Saturday afternoon. And I go, "Oh, nothing," you know. And he goes, "Well, why don't you hang out? I want to talk to you," you know. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, he wants me to be in his band or something like that. You know? So after the lesson, you know, he sit down, you know. So he starts preaching the gospel to me, you know. And to this day, I can still remember, you know, after he talked to me, I was like burning up inside. You know, like when you get nervous and you just get hot inside, kind of. That's what I remember. I was like, you know, just like really nervous and burning up, and so finally he goes, I remember this, he says, "So do you believe you're a sinner?" And I went, "Yeah." He goes, "You believe that Jesus died for your sins?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he goes, "Well, would you like to pray to receive him right now?" And I said, "I guess so." And so he goes, "Well, let's go to our knees and pray." So I got out on my knees, you know, and I'm like, man, I don't want to be here, you know. And he goes, "Well, why don't you pray?" He asked me to pray, and I said, "No, I would," because I was embarrassed. I didn't know what to pray. So he goes, "Well, I'll pray, and you pray with me." So I'm pretty sure, I don't really remember, I'm pretty sure I kind of prayed with him, you know. But I'm thinking more insurance reasons. Not that I didn't really see a need for a Savior, you know. So I think that I probably, the Spirit came in or did something that day. But I remember after it was over, I walked out of that house. You know how a lot of people give their testimony. When I walked out, all the stars were shining, and I just saw everything in a new. Well, when I walked out, I was like, man, I'm glad to get out of there, you know. And I went on for the next 10 or 12 years and partying and stuff and playing a lot of guitar. But God was faithful because He came after me 2 more times.
Amen.
One was about 2 years later. I was sitting on a bus bench, and there were all these tracks like laying on someone left over the bench. So you know, I got nothing to do. I got to wait another half hour for my bus comes. So I pick up this track, and it's got a picture of a hearse on it. Real small little track, like that big, you know. It's got a picture of a hearse on it, and it says, "You may have tied your shoelaces this morning, but the undertaker may untie them before the night's over."
No.
You know. And I was like, you know. And so I read, it preached the gospel real quick, and on the other side was the sinner's prayer. So I had nothing else to do, so I prayed that. But again, it wasn't something I felt like I needed. It was insurance, you know. So I folded it up. I'm sure I prayed it, you know, and then I pulled it up, put it in my wallet, and I thought that, well, now if I die, I can pull it out of my wallet at the pearly gates and say, look, you know, I prayed this. Please let me in, you know. But I'll tell you what, I still have that thing today. I kept it in my wallet for like, you know, 20 years, 25 years, just as I don't know why I kept it really, except that you know, I think something happened that day. But it's still, it wasn't for 7 or 8 years that I got saved, really. You know, so I was still, you know, I suspect that the Lord came in. You know how people will plant a seed and then people come along and water it, and then at some point it sprouts. You know. So then several years later, I was still hanging out, partying, and playing a lot of music, and got kicked out of CSUN a few times. But that's another story.
Kicked out of what?
Cal State Northridge.
Oh, Cal State.
Yeah, I actually got. I was on. I'll just say real quick. I was on a 20-year program. You know, because I graduated 20 years out of high school, and but I had gone in and out. I got kicked out, disqualified out of CSUN 3 times. But the Lord was faithful. But that's another story. So anyway, then about 1985, I got sick with kidney disease, and so I went through that whole thing. Went on dialysis in 1987, 88, 89, and so then right around 89, I ended up going in the hospital because I had this wisdom tooth that got impacted, you know, and so I went into the dentist, and he says, well, we need to pull it now. They were going to leave it in because it came in straight, but then the dentist goes, well, let's just trim it a little bit, because when it came through, the skin kind of opened up later, right? So he trims it a little bit. 2 days later, I'm all swelled up, you know. So he goes, well, now we need to pull the tooth. So he pulls the tooth. That should do it. And then 2 days later, I got like this orange, you know, right here. It was so swollen, and so they took me in the hospital, drained. I still got like a couple little marks right here, you know, something you can kind of see, you know. But I woke up on a respirator because it had just closed up and everything. And so, anyway, during that time, I was really sick. They had me on this antibiotic. I was in there for like 2 weeks after that. And I told God that if He got me out, let me get out of here. I was so tired of being in the hospital. I lost like 20 pounds, you know. I just couldn't keep anything down because of the antibiotic. So God finally got me out. And I promised Him, I said, if you get me out of here, I promise I'll read the Bible. So see, I knew He was kind of there, even though I had not really, you know, nobody had preached to me now in several years or anything like that. So I was making deals with God, and I got out of the hospital, and I opened my Bible, read it one night, read a little bit, and then I didn't open it anymore, you know. And then I went in the hospital again for something, and I did it again. I said, God, if you get me out of here, I promise to read the Bible.
Again, you said that?
I said that again.
Yeah.
I promise this time, you know. So I got out, you know, and I read it like one day, and yeah, it's all right, you know, and then it just sat there and collected dust.
Again?
Yeah. So then I got
It says He's always faithful.
Yeah, that's right. So then I got a call one Saturday morning from UCLA, and they go, yeah, we got a kidney. Can you come in?
Oh.
And I remember I said, can we do it tomorrow? And so they said, no, yeah. So I went in, you know, and so they did the transplant. And so anyway, this is right around where I got saved. I had, back then, this was 1990, rejection was quite it was normal to go through rejection. Now, you know, they got it pretty well handled. You don't really go through this one. But I went through rejection, so, you know, everything would be going great. I got out of the hospital after a week, you know, and I was happy. I felt great. And then you get a fever, and then you don't pee as much or something, you know. So something's, you know, there's a rejection. So I get a fever, so I got to go to the hospital, you know. They give me this steroid, prednisone, and then it'll be fine. And I go home after a day. So during that time, I did it again. I said once or twice, because I went in and out like three or four times over a period of like 2 months. And I promised God again, you know. I did. Then this one time, it was right on my birthday actually, in August, so it had been 2 months now. I go in for the rejection. They give me the steroid, but it doesn't help this time. I'm running this high fever, 105 or something, you know. And so they go, well, we can't give you any more prednisone because we don't know what's going to happen to you in 20 years or 25, which is now, by the way. You know, steroids and prednisone was like a fairly new thing. They don't know what's going to, if I'm going to grow another arm or something, you know, who knows. And so they go, but we got this other medicine that it's fairly new, and we're going to try that. And so and it was a thing where they gave you 10 shots, one each day. And so they gave me the first shot, and nothing happened. I was still running a fever, you know. And so then after that day was my birthday, And the doctor comes in and says, well, you know, if this doesn't work, we're just gonna have to let you reject the kidney. And so he went out. I had some family and stuff come in earlier in the day because it was my birthday, but now it was in the afternoon, there's nobody around. And I just got overwhelmed, you know, just, because you're like constantly worried. Every time I like not pee enough that day or something, start thinking, am I going through rejection? Or I check my feet, you know, my temperature, if it was up a tiny bit, am I gonna, you know. So I got so sick of that. I remember this feeling came over me, and I told God that I was tired of worrying about this. That I hated worrying about it. I didn't want to worry about it anymore. And I just, all of a sudden, I got this like flood of peace came over me, and all of a sudden it didn't matter if I was to lose a kidney. It was going to be okay. Whether it stays or whether I lose it, I knew it would be all right. And I think that's when I got saved. You know, I didn't pray any sinner's prayer or anything, but I think I surrendered to God at that moment. Because then I went home without making a deal with God, and I started reading the Bible, and I've been reading it ever since.
All right.
How you feel now?
Great. I had another transplant in 2002.